Chapter 1. The Early Cracks. "You coming home for dinner, babe?" I asked, tugging on my steel-toe boots, the worn laces scraping against the rubber soles as I bent down near the hallway bench. Jenna barely looked up from her phone. Her thumbs tapped away with robotic rhythm, her eyes locked onto the glowing screen. "I'm eating out with the girls again. Don't wait up." It was the third time this week. I tied the final knot in my boots and stood still for a moment, watching her. She sat at the kitchen island with her legs crossed neatly, flawless in tight jeans and a low-cut top that she didn't wear for me anymore. Her hair was freshly done, styled, curled at the ends. Her lipstick a bold red. No apron, no dinner plans, just that damn phone and a silence that felt louder than any argument we could have. "You've been going out a lot lately," I said, trying to sound casual, not accusatory. "I thought maybe we could do movie night tonight, like we used to." She sighed audibly, like the very sound of my voice exhausted her. "I told you, Greg, the girls planned this. Can't just cancel last minute. Maybe some other time." "Maybe." I nodded, grabbed my tool belt, and left. I didn't press her. I hadn't pressed her for a long time. I'm a construction foreman. I build foundations and pour concrete for a living, honest, backbreaking work. It's not glamorous, but it paid for the house, the car in her driveway, and the private school Lily got kicked out of last year. 18 years of marriage, and I thought we were solid. We'd been through layoffs, hospital bills, a miscarriage. We came out of each storm together, stronger, or at least I thought so. But lately, I don't know. There was a time Jenna would run out the door to kiss me goodbye before work. Now, I'm lucky if she looks up. There was a time we used to fall asleep holding hands. Now, her back is always turned, and her phone is always lighting up at midnight. She used to ask me about my day. Now she barely notices when I walk through the door. That night, I got home around 7:30. The house was dark, cold, too quiet. I flicked on the hallway lights. Lily's door was cracked open, a pale glow spilling onto the hardwood floor from inside. I walked past, knocking gently. "Lils? You eatin'?" She didn't answer. I pushed the door open slightly. She sat on her bed, headphones on, tapping away at her phone with the same dead-eyed expression her mother wore. She was still in yesterday's hoodie, the one with the TikTok logo on the front, legs crossed, and a cup of ramen beside her. She glanced up with a bored expression. "Door, Dad," she said flatly, then went right back to her phone. I closed it slowly. Lily used to be my little girl. She used to jump into my arms when I got home, beg me to take her to the park or ride bikes. Now she barely speaks unless she's asking for money or rolling her eyes. I went to the kitchen and opened the fridge, half a leftover casserole, a couple energy drinks, and a bottle of white wine already half empty. I reheated the casserole and ate in silence, fork clinking against the plate as the TV murmured in the background. The couch used to feel like home. These days it felt like exile. Saturday mornings used to be sacred in our house. Pancakes, pajamas, music in the background. Now there were ghost town hours. Jenna was out again, left a sticky note. "Gone for coffee with Rachel. Be back later." Rachel, the all-purpose alibi. I hadn't seen Rachel in months. I took my coffee black and went out to the porch. The sun was rising slow, gold stretching across the horizon. I used to imagine growing old on this porch, me and Jenna in rocking chairs, holding hands, watching grandkids play in the yard. Now I sat alone. The porch swing creaked beside me, empty. My neighbor, Tom, waved as he loaded up his fishing gear. "No work today, Greg." "Nah, boss man gave us the weekend." "Lucky man," he said, walking off with his teenage son laughing behind him. I sipped my coffee, the steam rising like smoke from a dying fire. That afternoon, Jenna came home in yoga pants and a fresh blowout. No coffee cup in hand. "Where have you been?" I asked casually, watching her from the doorway. She dropped her gym bag on the floor. "Yoga, then smoothies." "What?" "You said coffee with Rachel." She paused, blinked, then scoffed. "Jesus, Greg, you checking up on me now? What is this, an interrogation?" I raised both hands. "Just asking. That's all." She brushed past me without another word. The distance was growing. I could feel it, not in loud arguments or slammed doors, but in the quiet, the kind that creeps in and makes a home between two people. Intimacy had become a myth. If I reached for her in bed, She turned away. Said she was tired. Had a headache. Needed to get up early. On the rare nights she gave in, it was mechanical, passionless. Like she was offering a chore instead of a connection. One night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I asked, "Are we okay?" She stirred beside me, barely awake. "Yeah," she muttered. "Just tired, Greg. Always tired." The real blow came one Sunday morning. I've been looking forward to it all week. Just me, Jenna, and Lily, a home-cooked breakfast, maybe a walk around the lake. I made scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, even squeezed orange juice from actual oranges. Lily came down, took one look at the table, and scoffed. I already ordered DoorDash. Jenna followed moments later, already dressed in jeans and a tight blouse. "Oh, you cooked?" I nodded, feeling foolish. "Yeah, thought we could eat together." She looked at her watch. "Actually, I promised Chase I'd meet him at that new place. You know, for work stuff." Chase. That was a new name. She mentioned him a few times over the last month. Her new personal trainer. Said he was helping her get into shape. I didn't say anything. Just nodded and sat down alone, watching the bacon grow cold. After they both left, I sat in silence. The house was too big suddenly. Too still. I looked around and wondered when it all began to unravel. Was it a year ago? 5? Had I missed the signs? Or did she just get better at hiding them? I went to the garage, sat on my old workbench. The smell of sawdust and engine oil comforted me more than anything inside that house. That's when I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my old, dusty journal. I used to keep it for jotting down project ideas, sketches, personal reflections, back before things got so busy, before I let myself believe that comfort was the same as happiness. I flipped to a blank page. January 14th, Jenna's been distant again. Says she's going out with the girls, but it doesn't feel right. Lily acts like I'm invisible. Feels like I'm living with strangers. I hesitated, then added, starting to think I'm the only one trying anymore. And as my pen scratched against the paper, I realized something deep in my gut. Something was off. Something was really, truly off. Chapter 2. Subtle red flags. It started with the ring. Or rather, the absence of it. I noticed it one morning when we were getting ready for church. Jenna had always worn her wedding ring. Thin gold band with a modest diamond. Nothing flashy. But that day it wasn't there. Her finger looked bare. Naked. Forget something? I asked gently, pointing toward her hand as she brushed mascara onto her lashes. She paused, blinked at the mirror, then looked down. "Oh," she said with a shrug. "It doesn't really match my outfit." I raised an eyebrow. "Your ring." She waved it off. "It's tight. Swells my finger. I'll wear it next time." But she didn't wear it next time, or the time after that. In fact, I couldn't remember the last time I saw it on her hand at all. I searched her jewelry box one night while she was out. It wasn't there. Our anniversary came 2 weeks later, 18 years. 18 years of bills and birthdays and broken down cars and late night crying and inside jokes and road trips and rainstorms and all the moments that were supposed to mean something. But that morning, she didn't say a word. No happy anniversary, no card, no kiss, not even a post-it on the fridge. I waited, thought maybe she was planning a surprise, or maybe she forgot just in the rush of everything. So I brought home flowers after work, white roses, her favorite. While I walked in, she was on the couch, feet propped up, watching something on Netflix with Lily. Neither of them looked up. "Hey," I said, holding the bouquet in front of me like a peace offering. "Oh," she muttered without enthusiasm. "What's that for?" I blinked. "Seriously?" Her eyes darted back to the screen. "Is it my birthday? Wait, did something happen?" I set the flowers on the counter a little too hard. "Our anniversary, Jenna." She turned, mouth opening slowly, then closing again. "Shit. Sorry. Work's been insane, Greg." I honestly spaced. I didn't yell. Didn't guilt her. I just stood there quiet. Lily looked over, chewing gum. "You're acting weird, Dad." "It's not that deep." No one touched the roses. Then came the gym. It started innocently enough. "I just feel like I've let myself go." Jenna told me one night over dinner, leftover takeout eaten in silence at opposite ends of the table. "I think you look beautiful," I said because I meant it. She always had that timeless kind of beauty, Messy hair, sleepy smile, yoga pants, and coffee in hand. The kind of beauty that didn't need makeup to feel real. But she started working out 5 days a week. Then 6. Joined a high-end gym across town. Bought new outfits, tight leggings, crop tops, designer sneakers. The receipts started piling up. I offered to go with her once. We used to run together, I reminded her. Remember the turkey trot 10K? She laughed. Not kindly. Greg, this place is intense. You'd hate it. It's not really for guys like you. Guys like me? I said nothing, just nodded. She kissed my cheek quickly, already halfway out the door. She started coming home late, flushed and glowing. She said she stayed after class to stretch. Sometimes she smelled like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. The phone became her second skin. She laughed at it, smiled down at the screen like it was whispering secrets no one else could hear. But when I walked into the room, she flipped it over, closed it quickly, slid it into her back pocket like contraband. One night, we were in bed, her screen casting a bluish glow on the ceiling. I rolled toward her. Who are you texting? Just Rachel. Always Rachel. Can I see? I asked, not because I wanted to snoop, but because I was tired of feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. She locked the phone instantly. Jesus, Greg. What is this, middle school? You don't trust me? I didn't answer. She turned her back to me. I stared at the ceiling again. Lily changed, too. She used to be playful with me. She'd tell me about her school crushes, laugh at my lame dad jokes, call me Daddy-O when she wanted something. But now, I was just some guy who paid the bills. I asked her to help me wash the car one Saturday, just some bonding time like the old days. She rolled her eyes. Why would I do that? Because I'm asking you to spend time with me, I said. She scoffed. Mom says you wouldn't understand anything I care about anyway. That stung more than I let show. I turned and finished washing the car by myself. One Friday night, I came home early with a reservation. I had called in a favor at her favorite restaurant, Carmine's downtown. Had the booth by the window saved, even called ahead to get the wine we liked chilled. I stood in the doorway, holding the printed reservation and a stupid grin. She was standing at the mirror, putting on makeup. Perfect timing, I thought. Surprise, I said. She turned slowly, startled. What are you doing home? I wanted to take you out. Carmine's. Just us. She blinked. Oh, Greg, that's sweet, but I already made plans with the girls. I forced a smile. Can't cancel. She looked down at her curling iron, clearly uncomfortable. It's kind of important. Rachel's going through a rough patch. She needs us. Always Rachel. I swallowed the disappointment like I was swallowing a mouthful of gravel. Right? Of course. Rain check. She nodded absently, already turning back to the mirror. I tried again 2 weekends later. Booked a cabin upstate for just the two of us, old-fashioned, rustic like the one we honeymooned in. Left a brochure on her dresser with a handwritten note. She didn't bring it up once. By the time I asked if she'd seen it, she was folding laundry. Oh, I meant to talk to you, she said. That weekend, I have a spa retreat with the girls. The whole weekend? She shrugged. It's been on the calendar for months, Greg. It hadn't, but I didn't argue. I just nodded and walked away. Nights got longer. She stayed up later than me, always scrolling. She started locking the bedroom door when she changed. She laughed more with her phone than she did with me. I became polite company. Something tolerated. Background noise. She never yelled, never hit me, never insulted me outright. But every moment with her felt like sitting in a room where the thermostat was broken, cold, quiet, distant. I used to come home and feel grounded. Now I came home and felt unnecessary. Some days I would leave early just to avoid the silence. I'd volunteer for longer shifts. I started eating breakfast in the garage, sitting on the hood of my truck with a thermos and the morning air. Even the dog didn't wag its tail like it used to. It hit me one night around 2 a.m. I woke up alone. She wasn't in bed. I got up quietly, padded down the hallway. The living room light was on low. She was on the couch, texting rapidly, smiling to herself. She didn't hear me. She looked happy, not like she did around me. I stepped back without saying a word. That was the night I knew. Not everything, but enough. Enough to feel it deep in my chest. The dread, the grief, the slow crumbling of something sacred. Back in the garage, the journal was still there. I flipped to the next blank page, the pen trembling slightly in my hand. February 8th, she doesn't wear the ring anymore. Forgets our anniversary. Says it's just stress. But her smile's reserved for someone else now. Her phone lights up, and her eyes do too. I miss being someone she looked for in a room. I added one more line. I'm still here, but I feel like I've already been left. And that night, as I turned off the garage light and walked back into my quiet house, I realized something terrible. I was starting to feel like a ghost in my own home. The emotional isolation wasn't coming. It had already arrived. Chapter 3. Cracks become canyons. The first real slap to the face didn't come from Jenna. It came from Kevin. We were working a job out on Route 16, pouring foundation for a commercial plaza. Sun beating down on us like it held a grudge. After lunch, while we leaned against the truck, sipping water, Kevin nudged me with his elbow. "Hey, man," he said, cautious, like he wasn't sure if he should bring it up. "Your wife, Jenna, right? She was at that new steakhouse downtown last night." I wiped sweat from my brow. "Jenna? She told me she was out with the girls." "Yeah, well, she was definitely with someone," Kevin said, squinting. "Some jacked up dude. Tattoos. Tight black shirt. Not the kind of look you bring to Bible study." I laughed awkwardly. "You sure it was her?" "Positive. She walked past me. I said hi, but she didn't even make eye contact. Looked cozy. Real cozy." His words buzzed in my ears like a wasp trapped inside my skull. I tried to brush it off, but it stuck with me all day. It clung to the walls of my head even after I drove home, hands clenched tighter around the wheel than usual. That night, I waited until after dinner. Jenna came home late again, smelling like citrus and something heavier, like men's cologne. She tossed her purse on the table and headed straight to the fridge for a bottle of white. "Hey," I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "How was your girls' night?" She didn't look up. "Fine. Where'd you go?" "Downtown. Some sushi place." My stomach tightened. "Steakhouse," I said quietly. She froze for a second. Just a second. But it was enough. Then she turned, eyebrows raised in mock confusion. "What?" I said. "Kevin saw you. At a steakhouse. With some guy." Now she laughed. Full on, like I told a dumb joke. "Oh my God, Greg. Are you serious right now?" "I'm just saying it doesn't add up." She stepped closer, arms crossed. "So what?" "I had lunch with a friend." "Big deal." "Friend?" "Yes, Greg. I'm allowed to have friends." "Who is he?" She scoffed. "You're being paranoid." "Maybe, but I'd like to know who he is." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Maybe if you were more of a man, I wouldn't need someone to talk to." There it was. The hit. I stood there stunned. She pushed past me, wine glass in hand, and disappeared into the living room. From that day on, the tension in the house stopped simmering. It boiled. She was colder, sharper with her words. If I forgot to take the trash out, I was lazy. If I got grease on my jeans, she curled her lip like I smelled of filth. One morning, I came downstairs wearing a t-shirt from our anniversary trip to Asheville. She stared at it like it was something diseased. "You still wear that old thing?" I looked down. "Yeah. What?" "You look like a gas station attendant." I tried to laugh it off. "Well, I work with my hands. Not exactly walking into board meetings." She rolled her eyes. "God, do you ever aspire to be more than just that?" "Just what, Jenna?" "Just some guy who spends his life in dirt and denim." "You think it's impressive?" Her words hit harder than a punch. And the worst part? She wasn't even yelling. She was calm, detached, like she was just pointing out a fact I'd somehow missed all these years. The fights came more often. Sometimes they were sparked by nothing at all: an empty dishwasher, a missed phone call, a grocery list I didn't check. "You never listen to me," she'd snap. "You talk in riddles, Jenna. Half the time, I don't know what the hell you want." She'd pace the kitchen like a caged animal. "I want someone who pays attention, who asks questions, who doesn't just clock in, clock out, and think that's love. And I want someone who still looks at me the way you used to." Silence. Then she'd turn away. One night, I came home to find her in the backyard with Lily. They were drinking lemonade under the patio lights, laughing. As soon as I stepped outside, the laughter stopped. "Hey, girls," I said, trying to bridge the gap that felt like a canyon. Lily looked at her mother, then at me, expression blank. I sat down beside them. "What's so funny?" "Nothing," Jenna said quickly. Too quickly. Lily stood up. I'm going to my room. Stay, I said, a little too desperately. She hesitated, then shrugged. Mom says you wouldn't understand anyway. I blinked. Understand what? Just stuff, she said. You wouldn't get it. She walked away. I turned to Jenna. Were you telling her about me? She didn't answer. I started watching them more carefully after that. Not out of obsession, but out of necessity. I was being cut out of my own home, like someone was slowly erasing me from every photograph, every memory, every conversation. So I started looking for patterns, and I found them. It started when I checked our bank app one night, just trying to see if a contractor payment had cleared. That's when I saw it. $326.78, Hilton Garden Inn. $190.45, Victoria's Secret. $78.99, Uber at 1:43 a.m. $257.10, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. She hadn't told me about any of it. I scrolled faster. $49.99, online lingerie store. $340, Hotel Valencia. I felt a cold sweat form on my back. I knew the way she spent. She liked nice things, sure, but she always told me when she was making a big purchase. These were hidden, spread across 2 cards. She even withdrew $500 in cash on a random Thursday night. My heart pounded. My fingers went numb. This wasn't retail therapy. This wasn't me time. This was something else. Something I already knew but didn't want to believe. I printed the statements, laid them out on the kitchen table like evidence in a courtroom. I stood over them for hours. There was no denying it anymore. This wasn't distance. This wasn't miscommunication. This wasn't a cold spell or a rough patch or life getting in the way. This was betrayal. Expensive, intimate, deliberate betrayal. And it had a paper trail. Chapter 4. The breaking point. The kitchen scene. Saturday mornings were usually for sleeping in, at least for most people. But for me, they were a chance to breathe before another week buried me alive. The job that morning had been a concrete pour downtown, but I got a text from the client at 5:52 a.m. canceling due to a delay in inspection permits. So I stopped for coffee, drove around town aimlessly for a while, and eventually pulled into the driveway around 8 o'clock a.m. The sun was just rising fully, bleeding orange through the thin morning mist. Our house looked peaceful from the outside. Too peaceful. The blinds were still drawn, and a faint glow slipped through the slats of the kitchen window. I parked quietly. No reason to announce I was home. I wasn't expecting any grand greeting, anyway. I stepped inside and paused in the foyer. No footsteps, no TV on, just the soft clatter of dishes and laughter. 2 voices, both female. My brow furrowed. I placed my keys down slowly on the side table, the metal barely making a sound. I moved toward the kitchen, my boots landing soft on the hardwood. The closer I got, the more distinct the voices became. It was Jenna and Lily. They were laughing like conspirators, low, giddy, almost intoxicated with their own secrets. I stopped at the edge of the wall, just out of view, the drywall corner cold against my shoulder. And then I heard it. Jenna's voice, smooth and venom-laced. Honey, you know what? My lover is such an alpha male. Nothing like your loser dad. He can go 12 times a night without a pause and satisfies me every time. The breath caught in my lungs. My pulse thundered in my ears. Lily giggled. Thanks, Mom. Sound great. I can't wait to meet him. My stomach turned. They laughed again. I stood there frozen, heart pounding, hands trembling at my sides, rage and disbelief colliding like storms inside me. My world tilted. Something in me cracked open and went completely still. I stepped forward into the doorway. Please, finish your sentence. The laughter died instantly. Both of their heads snapped toward me. Jenna went pale. Her eyes widened, lips parting as if to speak but unable to form words. Lily stiffened, color draining from her face like water from a broken cup. Dad, Lily whispered, suddenly very aware that this wasn't a joke anymore. I stepped fully into the room, standing in front of the island they had been perched beside like it was their private kingdom. Jenna opened her mouth. It's not what you think. I raised a hand. Slowly, calmly. Don't, I said. My voice was so cold, even I barely recognized it. There was no anger in it, just finality. She stood up from her stool, knocking it over in her panic. Greg, please, it was a joke, I swear. I didn't flinch. I didn't shout. I just looked at them. My daughter. My wife. And I saw them for who they truly were. The same two people who used to sit with me on that very kitchen floor building pillow forts and baking Christmas cookies, now laughing at my humiliation behind my back. Bonding over betrayal. Plotting a future that had no room for me in it. Lily was frozen, eyes darting between us like she was trying to figure out which way the wind was blowing. Jenna stepped closer, her voice trembling now. Greg, come on. You're misunderstanding. I was venting. I didn't mean it like that. Oh, you meant it, I said quietly. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't touch me. There was a pause, thick, suffocating. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, the sound of their breathing behind me. Jenna called my name, but I didn't respond. I walked up the stairs, each step echoing like a countdown. I entered our bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out the duffel bag I kept for quick sight trips. I didn't pack anything. Not yet. Not physically. But in my mind, something had already shifted. I opened the top drawer of my nightstand and pulled out my old journal. Flipped past the most recent pages of doubts and pain until I found a blank one. March 4th, she said her lover satisfies her 12 times a night. Said I'm a loser. Said she'd take the house and the money. Lily laughed. Said she can't wait to meet him. I stared at the ink as it dried, the letters shaking slightly from my still trembling hand. Then I added one more line. They thought I was broken. They thought I'd beg. They thought wrong. I set the pen down and stood in the doorway of the bedroom, staring out into the hallway as the distant sounds of hushed panic floated up from the kitchen. They were scrambling now. Jenna was pacing. I heard cabinets closing. Heard Lily say something frantic, hushed. I didn't care. The part of me that had loved them, that had fought for them, cried for them, sacrificed for them, was fading like fog under a morning sun. They had laughed. At me. At the man who gave everything. And now, I had nothing left to give them. Chapter 5. The calm before the storm. The house was quiet the next morning. Too quiet. Jenna avoided me. Lily barely looked in my direction. The weight of what they said in that kitchen the day before hung in the air like poison gas, silent, toxic everywhere. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was something else. I was awake. While they whispered and scrambled to backpedal, I made coffee like it was any other Saturday. I ate my eggs in silence, staring out the window while Jenna moved around the kitchen like a stranger in someone else's home. And in my mind, I started building something new, not of drywall and concrete, but of paper, evidence, silence, and consequences. First, the lawyer. I didn't call any local office. I drove 2 towns over, parked on a back street behind a dentist's office, and walked into a beige law firm with no sign out front. I'd heard about them through a guy I did renovation work for once, a discreet, noble attorney named Frank Mullins. Frank was old school, wore a faded brown blazer, and smoked cigars inside his office. Legality be damned. Greg Daniels, he said, shaking my hand. Come in. Have a seat. You need divorce advice, I take it? I nodded. Yes. Quietly. He studied me. You look like a man who's seen the worst of it. I heard my wife and daughter planning to take everything I own and live with her lover, who apparently satisfies her 12 times a night. Frank winced. Jesus. All right, let's get to work. Over the next few hours, Frank walked me through every step. First thing you do, he said, is separate finances. Quietly, before she gets wind of anything. I nodded. Second, you collect proof. Infidelity. Financial misconduct. Anything that shows intent to deceive, manipulate, or defraud you. It'll go a long way in court. Already on it. Frank raised a brow. You a planner, Greg? I build foundations for a living, I said. And I never pour concrete on unstable ground. He smiled grimly. Good. Let's make sure you come out of this with your house, your dignity, and your sanity intact. That evening, I opened 3 new bank accounts under my name at a small credit union no one in my family knew about. I moved half my liquid assets discreetly. The joint checking account we used to pay bills, I let it sit untouched so she wouldn't get suspicious. I also froze all unnecessary lines of credit. I shut down the emergency card she kept in her purse, labeled for family use. She noticed 3 days later. Hey, my gym card got declined. What's going on? Probably fraud protection, I said calmly. I'll call the bank. She shrugged. Do it soon. I've got a retreat coming up. I smiled. Of course you do. Next came the cameras. I installed them myself, tiny, discreet, nestled into corners, vents, and smoke detectors. The garage, the living room, the hallway outside the master. Even one pointed at the front door and mailbox. They recorded everything, and I watched. Every day, what I saw confirmed what I already knew. Jenna was still seeing him, still bringing him into my world. His name was Chase Riley, a sleazy, overbuilt personal trainer with a jawline like a comic book villain and a tribal sleeve tattoo that made him look like an insecure frat boy. I found him online easily. His Instagram was full of gym selfies, shirtless poses, and captions like, "Women want me. Men want to be me." A real class act. She met him in secret. A hotel off I-76. Twice a week. I had timestamps, photos, even audio of their conversations, thanks to the bug in her purse. She called me pathetic, said I was emotionally neutered, said she was counting the days until the divorce papers came through, so she could finally stop pretending. Lily chimed in once in a call Jenna put on speaker. He doesn't even notice anything. He's so dumb, Mom. Jenna laughed. He's a fossil. Stuck in 2005. I hit pause. Rewound. Listen again. Not out of masochism. Out of purpose. I downloaded everything, labeled it, categorized it. Created folders, affair, evidence, financial transactions, recorded conversations. I became a ghost in my own house, floating through rooms they thought I couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't comprehend. But I saw everything. Late one night, I stood in the living room and stared at the wedding photo still hanging on the wall. We looked so happy in it. I stepped closer, watching how her eyes sparkled in the image, eyes that now avoided me like I carried disease. I took it down, placed it carefully in a box in the garage. Not out of anger, out of closure. I began documenting their false charges, Jenna's credit card purchases on lingerie and hotel rooms, Uber rides to unknown addresses, Venmo payments to Chase labeled as fitness sessions that happened at midnight. One particularly damning discovery was a $2,000 withdrawal she made under my name. She forged my signature, used it to buy him a watch. I had the receipt, and I kept the bank footage after filing a request under my personal account ID. Frank was impressed. "Greg," he said on the phone, "you're building a case that's practically bulletproof." "I'm not just building a case," I replied. "I'm building a reckoning." Weeks passed. I remained cold, cordial, calculated. I cooked dinner. I smiled. I cleaned the gutters. But I wasn't there anymore, not really. She'd ask about errands. I'd nod. She'd tell Lily to stop slamming doors. I'd fix the hinge without a word. I became invisible, and it gave me power. I filed the divorce papers on a Tuesday. Serve her on a Thursday. She was stunned. Her mascara hadn't even dried from her morning routine. "Wait, what is this?" she stammered, flipping through the packet on the porch. I handed her a manila envelope. "Evidence," I said flatly. She opened it. Photos, transaction reports, call transcripts. Her face turned gray. "Greg, this is illegal." I smiled. "Actually, no. Everything here's admissible. Ask your lawyer." She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, "We can talk about this. Don't do anything rash." "I'm not being rash," I said. "I'm being efficient." That night, while she sobbed behind a locked bathroom door and Lily stomped around like she was the victim, I sat in the study and updated my will. Cut them both out entirely. No home, no savings, no life insurance. The man they mocked for being boring, average, replaceable was now the one holding every single card. Chapter 6. The Trap. 2 weeks after filing the papers, I sent out the invitations. A group text to Jenna's family. Her parents, her older brother Ryan and his wife, her 2 cousins. I kept the message short and sweet. Special announcement dinner at our place. One last family gathering. 6 p.m. sharp. Steak, wine, and answers. Bring an appetite. I knew the bait would be too tempting. Jenna's family was obsessed with appearances, nice dinners, Big reveals, dramatic speeches. They never passed up a chance to look involved. And Jenna? She'd never pass up a chance to gloat. The night of the dinner, I grilled steaks in the backyard, as if it were the 4th of July. Music played from the outdoor speakers. I made her favorite garlic mashed potatoes. The wine was top shelf. I set the table with our fine china, stuff we hadn't touched in years. I wore a crisp button-down and jeans. Clean shave. Smile ready. When Jenna came down the stairs, I had to hold back a grin. She was dressed like she thought she was walking into a proposal. Tight red dress. Heels. Hair curled. Lipstick sharp as a blade. She eyed me. "You look good." "You too," I said warmly, placing the last steak on a platter. "Thanks for dressing up." She smiled like she'd already won. The doorbell rang at exactly 6:02 p.m. Jenna's parents were first. Her father Harold in his usual blazer, her mother clutching a bottle of Chardonnay. Then Ryan and his wife. The cousins filtered in, loud and cheerful. Everyone hugged, laughed, commented on how nice it was to do this again. Jenna played hostess, walking with a little extra sway in her hips. She poured wine, dished sides, laughed at everything too loudly. She thinks I'm here to beg, I thought. She was practically glowing with arrogance. I just smiled and played the part. Warm, gracious, calm. We sat around the long oak table. The wine flowed. Conversation buzzed. Jenna was in rare form, tossing subtle digs my way like appetizers. "You know, Greg's been surprisingly thoughtful lately," she told her mother with a wink. "Guess old dogs can learn new tricks." Harold chuckled. "Maybe you knocked some sense into him." More laughter. Forks scraping against porcelain. I just raised my glass. "To truth," I said softly. Nobody caught it. Not yet. After dessert, chocolate mousse Jenna hadn't touched, I stood and clinked my wine glass. Everyone turned toward me. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I know family dinners have been less frequent these days, but tonight felt important." I walked over to the TV and picked up the remote. "You see, I have something I want to share. A little tribute I've been working on." Took a while to gather all the pieces. Jenna tilted her head. "What's this?" she asked playfully, like she was already rehearsing her gracious acceptance speech. "You'll see," I said. "It's a montage." And then I hit play. The screen blinked to life. It began with a series of screenshots, text messages from Jenna's phone. Her flirty exchanges with Chase Riley. His selfies in hotel mirrors. Her messages. "He's such a stallion compared to Greg. I wish Greg would just leave already. He's pathetic, boring, just a wallet with shoes." Gasps rippled across the table. Harold's face went pale. Jenna's smile evaporated. "Greg, what the hell is this?" I ignored her. Next came security cam footage, grainy but clear. Jenna sneaking out at night. Chase pulling into our driveway. Kisses at the front door. Her sneaking him into the house while I was working overtime to pay the bills. Ryan muttered under his breath, "Jesus Christ," then the audio clip from a kitchen. Her voice, gleeful and venomous. "My lover is such an alpha male. Nothing like your loser dad. He goes 12 times a night and satisfies me every time. We'll take the house and money so you can live with us." And Lily's response, "Thanks, Mom. I can't wait to meet him." The room fell silent. Dead silent. Like the house itself was holding its breath. Jenna stood up, knocking her chair over. "You set me up. You piece of SHD." I slowly turned to her, meeting her eyes without flinching. Then I stepped away from the TV, calm as ever. "I built this house," I said. My voice was low, steady. "I paid for every brick, every bill, every goddamn inch." I looked around at the stunned faces of her family. At the woman who once swore to love me. At the daughter who used to climb onto my lap to tell me about school. And then I delivered the final line. "Now I'm burning it down, with you inside." Chapter 7. The Fallout. The next few weeks unfolded like a slow-moving wreck, loud, devastating, and impossible to look away from. Jenna's family left that night without another word. Her father wouldn't even look at her as he slipped his coat on. Her mother muttered something about shameful behavior and avoided eye contact with me altogether. Jenna screamed after them when the door shut. "You're seriously going to believe him?" "Mom." No answer, just the sound of tires rolling down the driveway. She turned to me, eyes burning, voice trembling with rage and panic. "You blindsided me. You think this makes you a man?" "No," I said quietly, "but it made you visible for what you really are." She didn't respond. She just stood there, in that red dress she thought would charm me, looking like a ruined actress who realized the cameras were still rolling long after the lie ended. The divorce went quickly. Even Frank, my lawyer, was surprised. "Rare to see things this one-sided," he told me during our final meeting. "She's not contesting anything." "How could she?" I replied, flipping through the final documents. "She's radioactive now. No lawyer wants to touch her. She didn't show up to the last court hearing. Didn't need to." The judge looked over the evidence. Months of recordings, receipts, text messages, even financial forensics I provided showing how she'd funneled money into a secret Venmo account for Chase. My reward? Full ownership of the house. Sole custody of our 8-year-old son, Noah. Primary control of all shared assets and investments. She got nothing. Well, not exactly. She got whatever clothes she could fit in the back of her Kia. And the shame of having every lie exposed in front of her family, our son, and a courtroom of strangers. The day she moved out, she didn't even say goodbye to Noah. That hurt him more than it did me. "Where's Mommy going?" he asked as I stood in the doorway, watching her struggle to close an overstuffed suitcase. "She needs to go figure out her life," I said gently, kneeling down to his level. "But we'll be okay." He nodded slowly, clutching his stuffed bear. "Can I still call her?" I hesitated. "You can always call, bud. But sometimes people don't answer when they're not ready to be honest." He didn't fully understand. How could he? But he nodded again and hugged me tight. That night, I held him a little longer before bed. Read 2 stories instead of 1. Let him sleep on the big bed with me, just so the house didn't feel so hollow. It didn't take long for word to get out. In a town like ours, whispers are louder than screams. The footage from the dinner had leaked, courtesy of her cousin, who sent a copy to a few close friends by accident. It snowballed from there. Jenna was dropped from her marketing firm a week later. Misalignment of values, the email said. Translation: "You're bad for business." She applied to a few new places. None called back. When I ran into her sister at the grocery store, she whispered, "She's staying in a motel outside of town. Her cards are maxed out." I didn't ask for more. I didn't need to. And Chase, he lasted all of 3 weeks. According to Lily's Instagram, which she forgot to set to private, Jenna had posted a photo of them together, wine glasses, fake smiles, some caption like, "New beginnings with my alpha." 3 days later, it was deleted. All photos of him gone. Then, she unfollowed him. He'd ghosted her the second he realized she had no house, no car, and no steady income. Just bitterness and a suitcase full of burned bridges. She tried to text me once. "Jenna, can we talk? Please." "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Lily waited longer. A few weeks after the court ruling, I got a DM from her, the first since the night of the dinner. "Dad, can we please talk?" I didn't mean for everything to go this far. I was just trying to support Mom. I was confused. "I'm sorry. I miss you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote one line. "Your choice was made. Actions have consequences." I hit send, and then I blocked her. The old me would have broken down, would have second-guessed, would have wondered if I was being too harsh. But the man they abandoned had died the day I overheard them in the kitchen. And the man I was now, he understood something they never did. Loyalty isn't owed. It's earned. With the divorce finalized, the house finally felt like mine again. I repainted the walls, tore out the bedroom carpet, donated every reminder of her existence to Goodwill. I put Noah in a new school across town, closer to my job, where no one whispered behind his back. I went to therapy, at first just to keep myself sane, but eventually to unpack the years of neglect, the slow erosion of my self-worth, the way I'd learned to minimize my own pain for other people's comfort. "You were raised to endure," my therapist told me. "But now it's time to live." She was right. I turned down a promotion at my old company. Too many memories. Too much noise. Instead, I took a job in a different city, 3 hours away. Project management for a mid-sized commercial construction firm. Better pay. Fresh start. I called some old friends I hadn't seen in years. Guys who used to fish with me on Sundays. They thought I dropped off the face of the earth. "Good to have you back, man," One of them said as we drank beer by the lake. You're looking healthier. Like you've been reborn. I smiled. That's exactly how it felt. Chapter 8. The New Man. The first morning in the new city, I stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Not because I looked different, yet, but because I felt awake, like I just walked out of fire, clothes singed, lungs full of smoke, but alive. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, open kitchen, a little balcony that overlooked a quiet park. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. A clean slate. No ghosts in the walls. No lies in the corners. No voices whispering behind my back. I dropped Noah off at his new school just after 8. His backpack bounced with each step as he ran through the front gates, turning to wave with a grin that melted the last ice in my chest. He was adjusting well. Kids bounce back quicker than we give them credit for. Me? I had work to do. The first thing I did was wake up early. No more snoozing, no more dragging myself through days I didn't want. I set the alarm for 5 o'clock a.m. every single day, and I stuck to it. Started simple, just bodyweight workouts in the living room. Push-ups, sit-ups, burpees. My body complained at first, stiff and unfamiliar. But after a week, something shifted. The aches became fuel. I added morning runs through the park trail behind my apartment. The silence, the cold air in my lungs, it cleared my head like therapy never could. Within a month, I dropped 10 pounds. Within 3, I gained muscle I hadn't seen since my 20s. The guy in the mirror? He was finally catching up to the man I was becoming inside. But it wasn't just the body. It was the mind. I read again. Real books. Journals. Business strategy, psychology, even some fiction. I forced myself to unplug from the noise of social media and opinionated friends. I stopped checking on Jenna. I stopped wondering what Lily was doing. That life? That version of me? Gone. I started my own contracting company, Ironclad Renovations. Small but personal. Honest work, fair prices, and no shortcuts. Word spread fast. I built relationships with local realtors, apartment managers, small business owners who needed trustworthy renovations. Within 6 months, I had 3 full-time crew members and a wait list stretching 6 weeks out. I was finally building something for myself, not for people who'd only ever used me. And I was good at it. Hell, I loved it. Therapy continued. Some weeks were hard. I had to face pieces of myself I'd buried, times I stayed silent when I should have spoken, sacrificed too much in the name of being a good man. But each session carved out a little more room to breathe. You were never the problem, my therapist told me once. You were the glue that kept a cracked vase from shattering. But glue only holds for so long. I nodded. I didn't cry. Not that day. But I did go home and write that line down in my journal. Right above the words. No more fixing people who break me. Dating? That came later. At first, I avoided it. Too raw. Too cynical. But one afternoon at a coffee shop near one of my job sites, I ran into a woman named Olivia. She was waiting on an order. We both reached for the same stir stick at the condiments bar. She laughed. Great minds think alike. I chuckled, maybe for the first time in weeks. She noticed. Rough day, rough couple of years, I said with a half smile. She raised an eyebrow. Then this coffee's about to be the best damn part of your week. We talked for 10 minutes. Then 20. She was divorced too. 2 kids. Ran her own graphic design firm. Funny. Sharp. No games. We exchanged numbers. We went slow. No pressure. No false fronts. First date was a walk in the park. Second was tacos and awkward laughter. The third? We sat on my balcony for hours, sipping wine while city lights blinked in the distance. Why did you get divorced? She asked softly. I told her the truth. She didn't flinch. I've had my heart dragged too, she said. Still beats, though. I smiled. Barely. She smirked. Give it time. Mine was a mess too. But sometimes ashes make great fertilizer. She met Noah a few weeks later. They clicked instantly. She didn't try to replace anyone. She didn't try to force anything. She just showed up. And for the first time in a long while, I let someone in. I wasn't perfect. I still had bad nights, nights when I thought about that kitchen conversation, those words etched in acid. You're loser, Dad. We'll take the house and the money. But I learned how to breathe through them, to let them rise and fall, because I was no longer defined by betrayal. I was defined by how I rebuilt myself from it. I laughed again. Real laughs. The kind that come from the gut, that shake the ribs. I smiled without having to fake it. I stood taller, spoke slower, walked with purpose. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. And more importantly, I stopped giving my loyalty to people who didn't respect me. Because I finally understood, loyalty to others is meaningless without self-respect. Chapter 9. Final scene. The closing line. It was a Friday afternoon in early fall. The breeze was crisp, the kind that carried the scent of change, burnt leaves, distant chimney smoke, and a whisper of something new in the air. I just finished a consultation at a brownstone renovation off Maple and 3rd. Noah was with a friend for a sleepover, and I had the evening to myself. I walked without a destination, just soaking in the rhythm of the city. Life had a hum again, a quiet pulse I hadn't felt in years. I passed a bookstore, a flower stand, a group of college kids laughing over bubble tea. And then I saw it. The cafe. It was a small corner spot, warm lighting, brick walls, tall windows fogged slightly from the espresso machines working overtime. People sat with laptops and novels, sipping lattes. A woman laughed near the counter. A barista flirted with a regular. But it wasn't them that caught my attention. It was the table in the back. Two familiar figures sat there, one tapping manicured fingers on a half-empty mug, the other slumped, arms crossed, eyes rolled toward the ceiling like she wanted to be anywhere else. Jenna and Lily. For a moment, I thought I was imagining it. But then Jenna turned her head, and our eyes met. It was like a movie freeze frame. 1 second suspended in silence. No sound, no movement. Her face, it took me a heartbeat to register the difference. She looked older, not just in years, but in wear. Her skin, once glowing with self-importance and curated beauty, now looked pale and drawn. Her eyes were dull, mascara smudged slightly under the corners. Her posture was slouched, her presence dimmed. There was no shine left, just a hollow woman playing pretend in a world that had finally stopped applauding her. Lily was mid-argument. I couldn't hear the words through the glass, but her expression said enough, jaw tight, hand gesturing in sharp, frustrated movements. Jenna said something. Lily rolled her eyes and scoffed. Their mouths moved in heated rhythm, faces sour with resentment. I stood still on the sidewalk. She noticed me. Her lips parted. She reached for her purse like she might come outside, or wave, or speak. But I didn't move. Not toward the door. Not toward the past. I let her look. I let her wonder what I might say. And then I simply turned and walked on. The streets were loud again. Cars honking. Footsteps. A distant guitar from a busker on the corner. And all of it felt more alive than that moment ever could. I didn't need to know what they were arguing about. Maybe Lily was tired of bouncing between couches. Maybe she missed the life she once mocked. Maybe Jenna was trying to spin a new lie, a new excuse, a new sob story for why things had gone the way they had. But I didn't care. I had nothing left for them. No anger, no vengeance, no curiosity, just space, just distance, just peace. I made my way down the block and stopped at a bench overlooking a small community garden. Sat down, closed my eyes. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Olivia. Hey, just landed from that conference. Want to grab dinner later? I missed you. I smiled. Absolutely. You pick the spot. I'll bring the appetite. I pocketed the phone and leaned back, the late afternoon sun brushing across my face. The wind rustled the trees above, scattering a few amber leaves onto the sidewalk. I took a deep breath, the kind that fills your chest all the way to your spine. A different kind of man had walked by that cafe today. One who wasn't begging for closure. One who didn't need validation. One who had found something far more valuable than revenge or sympathy. He had found himself. He had learned that strength wasn't loud. It was quiet, consistent, rooted in the refusal to become bitter when life gives you every reason to be. They thought I was the loser, but I was just the man who hadn't finished becoming who he was meant to be.